Howdy, Professor. This is my slightly late video update on our digital prototypes. So for this part of the project, we decided to make something all together because we all had commitments over spring break that made it difficult to work on it at that point. So the goal of this prototype primarily was to try and narrow down the behaviors and the core mechanics of the game. Just testing and experimenting, and especially getting a grip on how to use Unity, especially for the purposes of our game. We primarily were doing it for that reason because we found that our game doesn't have any mechanics that are particularly complex in terms of how they're going to be implemented. At least we don't think so far. So the challenge really comes from just learning Unity and learning how to actually create things in Unity and make everything fit together properly. Now, as far as our individual contributions, I have to give a lot of credit to Martin, one of our team members, for really getting this project in Unity started. He did a lot of work to lay out this project file, get it basically in a state where something was happening. So the majority of the actual programming was all his work, and we're really grateful for the effort that he put in before we were even ready to get started on it. What we each did overall was just planning out the logistics of it then. Because we all had commitments over the break, I myself didn't really have access to a computer at all for the last week, so I really wasn't able to contribute anything to the code in that time. However, prior to leaving, we all met and discussed how we wanted certain behaviors to work. We played around with our prototype together. We talked a lot, and we figured out the logistics in terms of how we're going to collaborate, setting up an organization with the Unity website and paying for the ability to basically edit it remotely as a group so we can have one consistent prototype across all of our machines. So that was the biggest piece of work that we did all together as a group, and then we all individually played around with the code a little bit to experiment with different behaviors in the mechanics that we had implemented. So as you can see from what's in front of you, we have two characters. They can move around, they can fire projectiles at each other, and the collision is roughly functional at this point. You can see that there are a few sort of quirks in it, but the core of it is there and able to be sort of refined at this point. Right now we only have a scoring system where when they get hit, a number ticks up at the top of the screen. As we outlined in our design doc, the intention is that the sort of force field that you can see appearing around the player one occasionally will change in size depending on how long it's been deployed and also how often they get hit. And finally, when that circle completely reduces to 0, your character dies. And so rather than a scoring system, we'll have a sort of match system where the best of 3 or the best of 5 wins. But right now we're mainly concerned with just getting those first mechanics working and feeling good. In the future, we're definitely going to enlarge the sort of battle arena. We'll have a camera that moves with the characters rather than being in a static and very confined space. And we'll try to decide how many bounces we expect to allow the projectiles to have, because as it stands, it gets pretty chaotic, and when we implement a sort of health system the way that we intended, we expect that that'll be a little bit frustrating and not particularly fun. So really what we learned is that Unity is kind of tough to work with when you've never used it before, but in theory, everything that we're trying to implement in this game should be very much within our abilities once we get the hang of actually using it. So based on that, moving forward, we're just going to focus on really getting the hang of the interface and figuring out how our collaboration is going to work and how we're going to divide up things so that we don't step on each other as we work on this game. But we do have something to work off of now that is really solid, and will definitely be going forward from here. So that's it.